Take a look at my profile picture. I keep this picture specifically because of how absurd my forehead looks. You could play pickleball on it. I've considered renting it out. And my hair. I'm aware that there was a villain who had this exact same hair in one of Sylvester Stallone's really early 90s movies. And granted, being born in the late 1900s, it's not a surprise that I have this kind of hair. Cue the Renaissance music. I want to make a disclaimer for this video. I do not support matte graining with the revelations from the Epstein files. However, I will not erase what that show meant to me when I was living in survival. When I was a kid, I didn't have a lot of places where I felt safe. But every day, whenever The Simpsons came on, I did. I remember I used to always ask my brother about what the couch gag was. That was the one thing that kept me feeling like a kid. And I remember sitting in front of the screen and just being able to relax because of how much joy and how much laughter it brought to me. I mean, there was just so many characters in season 3 to season 10. Those were the peak ones. Hans Molman, there was Lionel Hutz, there was Moe, but also just how much Homer influenced me as a young man. See, Homer was an accidental male figure in my life. The bumbling, well-meaning, chaos-filled, but the family kept showing up for him anyway. I won't get into this deep today, but the person that I had looked up to as an older brother had taken something from me that wasn't his to take. I didn't have any other male figures in my life. All my uncles and older cousins abused me physically and emotionally. And my brother, he was a good role model. However, because he pushed me down the stairs when I was 3, my central nervous system had already deemed him as a threat. Children will find co-regulation wherever they can. If it's not available in the home, they're going to borrow it from a screen, a friend. That's not a failure. It's a nervous system doing exactly what it's built to do. Question for parents is, what are your children borrowing and from where? Growing up, I would use silliness and comedy, especially from what I learned from cartoons, for attention and acceptance. It wasn't necessarily joy, it was actually strategy. This is what unprocessed pain recruited into comedy looks like. The joke isn't coming from joy, it's coming from survival. Parents, if your child is using humor to deflect, dominate, or create distance, perhaps you could look underneath. There's something that hasn't been given space yet. There were a lot of people in my life who actually did enjoy bringing joy into my life. There were 2 people, specifically my brother, another close friend of mine, my friend Joey, who I took their taunting and their teasing as a threat because I was living in that survival. And yet, I look back on it now as this adult, they genuinely loved to hear me laugh. They'd go out of their way to find the movie or find the joke because my laugh actually meant something to them. For instance, with my friend Joey, his love language towards me was bugging me, was teasing me, was getting me going, but none of it was an ill will. There was a specific time I'll always remember. I was hospitalized after a suicide attempt. I told everyone it was a painkiller overdose. Shame kept the real reason quiet. And Joey kept pulling these pins that would make my seat in the wheelchair fall back. And I took that as a threat. Yet I remember him saying to me, I'm only doing this because I want to make you laugh. And he would purposely go out of his way to make me laugh. I'll still remember this one day too. It was over 200 times he farted in one night when I slept over at his house, and I kept laughing the entire night. Something like that never took the actual value of it, that he was truly trying to make me laugh. That compared to the wheelchair story, they both had the same intention. But because I couldn't discern his actual value in our friendship at that time, I took the wheelchair situation as a threat. And even through all the drugs and crime, all the bullshit that I did, he was still there. He supported me regardless, up until the legal system caught up with me. That's when he said, what the fuck are you doing? You're 32 years old. Get your fucking act together. That was the last time I talked to him. That was in 2018. And I remember cutting everyone off. It wasn't because of cruelty, it was just I knew I had to do something different. So I moved from Calgary to Vancouver. In 2021, when I finally decided to reach out, it was 2.5 months too late. He had overdosed on cocaine that was laced with fentanyl. Nobody knew how to find me, apparently. I didn't even make it to his funeral. A bunch of other situations that were piled on top of that too. When I called, it was on my birthday. My mom's death anniversary was a day before my birthday. So not only did I lose a friend, I had all these other situations that were piled on emotionally that made it so difficult for me to actually understand what was going on. And it shook my central nervous system down to its very core. However, after a few years of really reflecting, I realized that losing him physically was what I was grieving, but that I needed to embody the values that he brought into my life, because he brought me genuine joy like nobody else did. So you have to ask yourself, what did this person give me that you can give back to the world? And a dysregulated nervous system doesn't run a cost-benefit analysis. It finds relief wherever relief exists, even if it is temporary and detrimental. And this even brought me towards some very particular individuals who had very high profile lives. There was a shared nervous system state, a sense of belonging, and it was a sense of co-regulation. They felt like something was taken from them and they needed to express that to the world. And at the end of the day, the system wasn't broken. It was doing exactly what a nervous system does when safety isn't available at home. This isn't about blame. A child's nervous system looking for regulation is not a parenting failure. It's a signal. The question is whether you can catch it early enough to give it something better to land. And see, when parents say, I don't understand how they ended up like those people, I understand exactly how. It was never about the choice. It was about what the environment was regulating for them that nothing else was. Because when a child doesn't have a regulated nervous system, or if there's no safety in their environment, they're going to find safety, which is exactly why you hear certain people say, we are brothers now. We are like family. Especially if you've had a messed up family and they know that, they will use that. But as well too, they've had a messed up family, so they know that it's a sense of belonging, a brotherhood. And so when I started facing the darkest aspects of myself, it was the child that didn't feel safe. There was this complete shift. That's when I began to start laughing at my own ego. I was taking everything so seriously, which is exactly why I was suffering. And it's like these things were supposed to kill me or put me in prison, and it didn't. And it's easier for me to actually laugh at myself because there's nothing that anybody can say to me that has not tried to take me down or that I haven't even said to myself in the mirror. And how I truly know now that I've grown from that is because I actually do things purposefully to make myself laugh. One thing I like doing by myself is like an inside joke, because in Third Rock from the Sun, which is an old 90s show about a military alien unit team who appropriate human bodies in order to research the human race as spies for their home planet. And Dick Solomon, played by John Lithgow, he said in a few episodes, when he was praised, he goes, well, I am the High Commander. And me, as my own inside joke, I'll say that to people if they praise me or if they say something nice about me. I'll be like, well, I am the High Commander. I'll just look away, absolutely no expression, and I'll laugh to myself after the fact, because you get to this point where all of that defensiveness was just trying to protect that pain. It's like what Rumi says, the cure for the pain is through the pain. And when I started realizing everything was a joke, I started appreciating more humor, and especially the writing of The Simpsons from season 3 to season 10, it gives me a deeper gratitude and how much more meaningful those memories are now, knowing how funny that show truly is as an adult. I couldn't access these as a kid because survival mode doesn't nuance. And see, what your children can access is directly connected to how regulated their nervous system is. Not intelligence, access. A quieter system reaches further. This is what you're building towards when you actually do the work. You start to realize the safety and you start to have more clarity and presence. And the proof that I have about this is how I treat my nieces now, W and C. Because when I see W's face light up and smile and hear her laugh, it gives me more fuel to be that uncle who can make her laugh. She is basically an improv class for me, and I'll even make my own impersonations. I have this French guy accent where I say Grey Poupon in this very absurd way that she loves. I have a Sylvester Stallone accent. I have a Christopher Walken accent for her, but she loves the absurdity of it. It brings me joy in the same way that Joey did for me as a kid. When I look at how I am for my nieces, I realize it's coming from a regulated nervous system, despite I have a lot of high energy when I'm with them. I'm very present with them. I'm genuinely connecting with my nieces in a way that they understand at that level. Being around my nieces helped me embrace and embody what I couldn't do as a kid, but as an adult version of myself now. I was a child who needed a cartoon to feel safe for half an hour every day. And that grew into a person who does Squidward voices for a 6-year-old until she loses it. The distance between these two people is not nothing. That's the whole story. And if this video brought something up for you, there is crisis support available. The number is in the description. And if any of this landed for you, there's something free in the bio. No pitch, just a starting point.